Hi everyone, this is Mohammed. Just wanted to do a live stream today, just to change up things a little bit. Um, so there's a video, how to achieve financial freedom, uh, the untold secret of money. Um, and I wanted to just give some notes on what's in this video. Um, Apparently it's doing really well on the internet. It's had 23,000 views, and the content creator was saying uh, he had made, from monetization of this content, over 10K in US dollars. So obviously he's doing really well, and I found that this is a lot of the concentration of all the different books he's read about financial freedom. His main principle that he rivets and revolves around is in concern to creating a portfolio of investment, and then just being able to build up a portfolio such that there is a return on that portfolio of investment to what you would deem as acceptable as a annual income. So if you would like $20,000 per annum, you would need a portfolio of $500,000. If you like an income of $50,000 per annum, what you deem as your financial freedom amount, then 1.25 million is required in your investment portfolio. If you would like an income of $100,000, you are required for a 2.5 million portfolio, um, to receive that in dividends. So I like where this content goes, and I do feel that the script misses a few marks with regards to financial freedom. If you watch some of the other videos with regards to this, there is a concept called unjobbing, which he did not add in there. Uh, Another thing I think it's of some use in terms of figures is that he said if 50% of your outgoings are saved, uh, because usually in some parts of the world, your income that you receive, 50% goes towards rent of a house. If you were to sublet or have paying guests at your house, you would be able to recover that fully. And in that regards, you are investing 50% of your income into creating your portfolio of investment, which if you were to invest 75% of your income towards a portfolio for 7.5 years, I believe, you would be able to have the $100,000 as your income. So he encourages you in this regards and so forth. And he also says if you invest 10% of your income, you will get there by 47 years. If you invest 50%, that's 17 years. But I think he may have missed a point there with regards to being buying conscious, and the decision fatigue that could occur from this, and also with regards to the mental price that you pay whenever you're buying that coffee and so forth. So I'm just going to say that he did make mention that if you limit your expenditure, that would mean that there is less things present, you're consuming less, and there is a good that comes out of this, like a minimalism sort of good. Um, but he did not mention that the fact that when you are in situations in your life and you are thinking about uh, your expenditure, that is also a price that you pay for with regards to this. Another nice lesson that he teaches is to avoid the debts, which I really like, is don't get into a debt that is high interest and you cannot cover it in time. Uh, only there is such a thing as a good debt, and that is the debt that you can only leverage, only get the debt that will leverage uh, the debt that would make more money that you then borrowed. So avoid this, and I think that's a very good idea. He encourages people to find uh, new ways to earn more and keep your expenses the same. Uh, he says if your income is 50k per annum and you're spending 25k per annum, and you will take obviously 17 years, as I mentioned before. But if you increased your income streams, so I had multiple income streams, you would be and kept your expenses at 25k per annum. That's the game changer, according to him. And that is the one where you will be able to have. So if you were to, for example, have 100k income due to your multiple streams of income and you wanted financial freedom, so if you kept your expenses at 25k for 7 years, from today till 7 years, you will be able to get 100k return as dividends per annum with no work required at all, based on your portfolio of 2.5 million and your income being 100k per annum. So if you weren't willing to another nice point that so first I'm doing the good things, and which I think are worthy of noting. He says if you're investing in things, do not back a product that you're not willing to stand behind for more than 10 years. Do not get into this quick flip game. Don't think about owning something for 10 minutes. Get out of that mindset. So I like this aspect of thinking long term. Another nice lesson he says is no matter how great the talent or efforts, some things just take time. And that's again a very strong point. I think it's worthy of highlighting, is to keep a long term mindset, keep an accruing mindset of knowledge and wealth. Invest long term, diversify your investments. Never try to time the market. Again, these are Warren Buffett lessons, which I do not want to get into because he explains them. So, another thing he says is figure it out, the number that you want per annum, and then keep investing 75% of that number per annum for 7 years. And don't be afraid to revisit calculations. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to help others. And which is, I think, is a really nice thing. He recommends some good books. But here are the points I want to highlight to him. Now, I'm not monetizing my content as a result, because I feel he could, if you watch this video of mine, uh, maybe switch it up, or for his next content, bear these things in mind. So here's the thing. Every time you get a rash mentally, or you get friction in your head mentally when you're paying for goods, you are harming your mental health. If you get that mindset of I've only got this, I'm not going to spend, I'm not going to spend. So every time you are basically living your moments in life and you have that, that's not good for you mentally speaking, because in your head the cogs are spinning, the very cogs you are working to not have in your life. So it's kind of like an oxymoron situation where you're actually putting these cogs in, which you don't want in your life. So that's something to point out. Another thing is many people I've seen put themselves through this misery and they have no idea what to do when they get to the wealth. Um, they've, they've put themselves through these severe situations in life, and by the time they've achieved financial freedom, they've lost all their teeth, high priced mansions are out of fashion, limousines are out of fashion. The fact that they may have built a a home somewhere, that town is abandoned by the local folks. Um, these are some of the examples, not personally have come across, but I've heard and known about where when people do get to these stages, they've actually uh, don't know what to do with the wealth anymore. Uh, so I want to highlight this aspect of this proposition that he proposes. Another thing I would like to mention is uh, look at the lives of these so-called made it figures. Those people who we deem as, yeah, he's made it. They have no sense of grounding in this world. What to do with the accumulated funds, as I previously mentioned. Another thing I would like to highlight is uh, you get you uh, uh, is another point I'd like to point out is somehow spend if you somehow spend zero. The content creator mentions at one point when he's doing these 75%, 7 years, 50%, 17 years, so on and so forth, 10%, 47 years. He says that if you spend 0% of your income, that means you are requiring a 0% of your uh, if you somehow spend 0% of the money you make, that means you are financially free right now. What he says is basically if you're not spending this money, uh, then you are already no need for you to make a investment portfolio because you're already free. So that's a point I wanted to pick up on, and I wish he kind of picked up on that is frugality. Frugality is beautiful in a sense, and he mentions frugality when you're basically having less things in your room, less things occupying your mind because you're not making purchases. I like that aspect, and I wanted to actually take that up a notch. And I said that what if you could live with a less amount? Wouldn't that be an amazing thing to do? If you lived with a smaller amount. So in that way, you don't need to concern yourselves with a big portfolio, and that aspect also needs to take into account because in the UK, the threshold, I believe, is 12.5K before you start paying any tax. Um, if you could earn 12.5K at the same time, live within that 12.5K, then you're sort of financially free already. You're not making a contribution towards income tax and so forth. So that is another a way you could look at financial freedom is not earning less in the first place or living with frugality, which again has its own benefits as well as its drawbacks. Uh, there's also the fact that there is no such thing as financial guarantee for life, whether it comes to job security or financial portfolios. We've seen this circus so many times. There's no such thing because in this world, uh, you know, there is no such thing as a guarantee. So that's something that you have to bear in mind as well. Uh, what about the emotional element of this proposal that he makes? Um, what about the emotional relationships that suffer in these 7 years that he proposes? What about the price you pay for that? I want to just touch on that there is a price, the emotional relationships that suffer as a result of this. What about the degeneration of societies that these, again, people following this formula of financial freedom for 7 years? What about the degeneration of societies and so forth? Who is to think about that, or are you just going to walk past um, um, problems in society because you are just set on this one thing of 7.5 years? Who's gonna who's gonna answer to these questions? Okay, and another thing I wanted to touch on is, what about the pandemics that are currently existing? And by that I speak about, for example, let's just remain within the mental health sphere. 264 million people of all ages globally, according to, I think this is from World Health Organization. 264 million people of all ages suffer from depression worldwide. What about 10% of the burden of the global diseases is made up of only mental, neurological, and substance use disorders? Uh, and 30% of non-fatal uh, diseases. That 10% it counts towards 30%. Another thing is, uh, who's going to address the epidemic of loneliness? I know this is slightly irrelevant, but I'm just trying to highlight some of these things. For example, living alone and poor social connection is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. London is dubbed the loneliest city in the world. Loneliness is worse than obesity. Again, these are facts from reports. Lonely people are more likely to suffer from dementia, heart disease, and depression. Again, this is from a medical report. In Britain alone, there's 2.2 million people who have to live with loneliness. Um, so these are some of the scenarios I want to highlight that will, if you watch this content, you may not pick up on, which need to be addressed. Now, let's look at some of the macro situations around the world. Financial freedom. Okay, what about these Gulf states that have somewhat a lot of financial freedom because of their oil reserves and so forth? What is the situation if you look at it in a macro sense? Uh, they they there are societies that exist that I've personally visited in these Gulf states, and I'm not talking about KSA at the moment, uh, that still need people uh, to do regular jobs. What's happening with the societies where financial freedom is rampant, or it's not rampant, I suppose? What about places where financial freedom is common is a better word. I take that word back. They still need people in their lives. They still need people to drive their ambulances, be nurses, deliver their pizzas, wash their cars. What if, what about these situations that have occurred? Uh, so I know this is somewhat turning into a discussion around work circumstances and wealth inequality. I'm just trying to highlight some of the things I feel are worth pointing out. So it's important to note that it's not just about the income, because you can have a financial portfolio in an unethical industry, and you're receiving those funds from it because the yield is better. Uh, uh, that cash, it has some price that you're paying for it. And if you accept the machinery of this price, uh, it's really a slippery slope, because happiness, your joy, the reason why you set off on this journey in the first place of financial freedom, is not going to be found in this place where you have a financial portfolio that is providing you dividends from unethical industry. You're not going to receive that joy, because of the uh, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be in a content place. Uh, Other notes I've had is happiness is an act of spontaneousness. Happiness is not something that you can order to specific uh, acts or specific zones in your life. Happiness needs to be something that is a thread that you can connect to all, almost like requiring no financial funds or purchasing or so forth. Happiness is something that is spontaneous. It's an act of spontaneousness. It shouldn't be something that's bound to specific cordoned sections of your life, or through purchasing. Another thing I say is that once you have the financial, and you accept this is the mental disturbances that lie with the consumptions of goods and services. So yes, you can have a 100K portfolio in 7 years' time, but what about the price that you pay of after you've achieved this portfolio of 100K per annum? What about the price that you pay for this? What about another thing I want to point out is so as opposed to waking up to the reality of bad news, letdowns, sad events, which are part of life, you are sort of ignoring and sort of connecting with life in this way, where you accept the bad news and the letdowns and the sad events in your life, and you deem them as rain showers in your life. They come and they pass. Who's gonna sort of school you in this aspect of life? If you have a portfolio of 100K dividends, because they are there, these situations that are out of your control or in your control, and yet they occur, they are there to accelerate you in your realization of greater purpose and meaning. So I wanted to say, what about this aspect? Who's gonna sort of assist you with regards to this? And if you utilize these moments of letdowns and sad events and bad news and so forth, if you utilize them for this, that you accelerate your realization of greater purpose and meaning, uh, if you do not utilize these moments, if you do not utilize these moments for this, uh, you just end up piling them up, and no amount of quick fixes will ever be enough with these situations. And one can only have greater purpose and meaning through things that are rooted in a required time, that are rooted in things and practices that require time and reflection, such as walks and meditation. So I know I seem to come across digressive, but what I'm trying to say is these aspects are the reason why you set off on this 7 years, 100K per annum journey, is because you wanted these in your life. And if you cannot solve these situations of sad events, things outside of your control and so forth, by purchasing and quick fixes and events and so forth, then would you not want to introduce some of these along the way? Would you not rather do a 10-year deal uh, as opposed to a 7-year deal, but maybe introduce some walks in your life and time for reflection? This is where the true uh, content happiness is rooted, not in quick fix things. So the world, as we know, needs to realize one thing right now, and that is it needs to exit. Okay. This is in regards to what I'm about to say right now is my concluding note, and that is regards to something the Dalai Lama said on the Yes Theory um, channel. And when he was asked, how do you heal depression in this world? And he said with something very similar to this. He said, the world needs to exit this me situation. It's like, I want, I want. And in order to exit this shell, again, it requires walks, reflection, meditation, and so forth. But the point is you will heal the mental health issues that exist in this world. Because when you think of others and serve the others, the service to others requires the need of others, it requires the need to have humility. You see, it's one of the, the aspects that it requires. And because when you think of others and service the needs of others, you are healed from your own mental health, as it requires humility to be able to serve others. And secondly, the second concluding note, and now I'm not going to connect this with what Dalai Lama said, uh, is to utilize regular acts that require taking time out and reflecting, such as immersing yourself into silence, for example. Uh, this can be achieved through very hard self discipline of following the teachings of great personalities, or through organized religion, which I am a part of. So, in either case, the goal is to create a new earth with masses somehow living the best version of themselves and awoke to the specific purpose in their life and not individualism. Um, and yeah, so on that note, I've said what I had to say. This is unfiltered, unedited footage, and um, it's gone on for about half an hour. But I've said what I wanted to say with regards to this video I saw, and I hope it will influence the future content of this creator, future content of the creation of this video I saw. And I wish you well and have a nice day.